Hi, how are you all doing tonight? I hope you're doing well. And if you've been keeping up with Simon at the Hermit's Cave, he has a new tag out. It's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but I think about a week it's been out, and there's some been really interesting responses. And one thing I loved about this particular tag is that it's 10 decks you can't live without, or I can't live without, 10 decks I can't live without, but in no certain order. So it's not a ranking. It's this kind of, if I just had to pack up and I knew I was going to be gone for a few months, maybe there's no I don't like imagining there's an emergency. But let's just say I won the lottery and I'm going on a trip. What are the 10 decks? And the trip will be like, maybe I'm gone for 6 months to Europe or something. What are the 10 decks that I would want to be sure to take with me, so I would either have to repurchase them or look for them? Maybe they're not available, that sort of thing. So I'm going to begin, and the first one is a Kickstarter. Now this has been since republished as a mass market. Oh, I'm going to have to go back on the camera, aren't I? Let's see. So this is the mass market, and it's a box set. But even though it's a box set, I'm going to treat it like it's the deck. The Visconti Madrone. Now, I did buy the smaller deck, the mass market deck, whatever, and they still make both. They make the hang on, and I'm back. So just in case you don't know, this is the regular commercial edition that Los Scarabeo puts out, and I'll show you the difference. These cards, they're still larger than standard size, and they're still very much very beautiful. It's definitely a luxury card deck. It's very good card stock, but the sides are plain. They're not gilded. And of course, they probably, I'm not sure if they would have been at the time or not. The backs are a patterned back, not the original. So this is the mass market. It comes in a very beautiful box. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I love it. And so this is the Visconti Sforza, and of course that I believe they either know or believe it's it was a wedding present for the Visconti and Sforzas when this couple was getting married. The book for this one, this is not a walkthrough, but it's a very typical Los Scarabeo. It has several sections in it for several different languages, and so therefore each section is small. Okay, so this is the set I would run out with. This is the Kickstarter edition, and I was very lucky because I saw this is what attracted me to the deck, and I wanted to get it, but then it was sold out. I didn't realize it was a Kickstarter. I just thought it was a deck by Los Scarabeo, and as you see, I'm going to keep flapping that top. The cards are quite large, more of the traditional size of what they would have been when they were handmade. The gold, it's still very good. And this is more of the original back. It's been cleaned up. If you've ever looked at this deck, the images from the actual decks that are in a museum, these would have all the cracks and maybe a rip, or there's one that has it looks like a hole in the top, or maybe they all had that where they were hung. But it's just an absolutely beautiful deck. So instead of maybe grabbing a more modern Marseille, this is what I would grab. The cards are beautiful. They're not labeled, which was traditional at the time, but I think you can really tell who this is. So page and knight, it's very hard to get those mixed up. Page, knight, queen. So and then the majors are just as clearly visible. Hierophant, Emperor. So just a very beautiful deck. I won't go through the whole thing because there are 10 decks here. I did not want this to be an hour. I want it to be sort of short, well, not short, but I don't want it to be an hour long either. The thing with this deck is I had been looking for it off and on because this is the set I really wanted. It was the first one I saw, and it popped up on eBay on auction. And so it was, I forget what the price was, but it was around 80. And that, but I think that was the beginning bid. Now the book for this one in the set from Kickstarter, it's a nice hardback book. There is quite a bit written on each card and the history of the game, color pictures along with there. All of this is in English, and it's not multiple sections. It's one book on the deck, the history, the cards, their meanings, how they probably used and came about. Nice hardback book. Then it comes with a reading cloth. You get a coin with that, and then it also comes with a wax stamp. So, and this one has the serpent on it. So all of this was included in the Kickstarter set, and then of course the wax here. Another one. This is deck number 2, not in any order, like I said once again. This is the Oculi Occultati. Oculi Occultati. I can pronounce some words in Italian or Latin. This one is one I'm not familiar with, so it's either Oculi Occultati or Oculi Occultati. And I'm not sure which. This deck has been out of print for quite a while, and I didn't see it until I had gotten started with tarot, which was 3 years ago, maybe not quite that long. And I fell in love with it. Then I started watching walkthroughs of it, and then I went to look for it, and I couldn't find it. And if I did find it, it was several $100s. And so you'll notice the minors are in color, have colors attached to them. The majors are all black and white. But this mix of sketch art with digital overlay, geometric designs is just so intricate. But this deck really speaks to me. So ScarletImprint.com, check them out. They do have some really, what they do is very high quality, very limited, and they do have some smaller items. So go support them if you think about going to look at it. So that's number 2, Oculi Occultati. The third one, again in no uncertain order, is the Urban Tarot. Now this is one I don't see people using a lot in videos or making it part of their rotation videos. Of course, we're not going to see tons of walkthroughs now because this deck has been out for several years, and that's just the way that goes. I can come back down now because the large deck, the large decks are gone. All right, but the Urban Tarot is the Thoth-based deck, according to what I've read from the author. But I love the everyday lifeness of it. It doesn't feel, at the same time, it feels modern and old at the same time. And I don't know how to describe that, but I find the images very powerful. Interference. This is 8. That's awesome. Swiftness. The Mage. This one harks back to me. He's got his keyboard here. He's got his computer there. He's evidently composing. This reminds me of the Magician card from M.M. Maline's deck, and I can't think of the name of it now. It's over there, so I'm not going to grab it, but it's a DJ, so that's that harkens to that. But it's just a very well done deck, and these are scenes and situations, he said in his book that comes with it, from people he knows in life, or people he knew, or situations he'd walked through or been through. So it's very much his lived experience, a lot of it, places he's been. And to me, that's just really powerful. And I can feel that energy coming through these cards. This is actually really cool because this is him, and he is reading about the creation of the deck. This was a photograph that he took and then he painted, but he actually has a rope tied to the back of his pants, and a friend of his is holding it behind him, and he actually goes to the edge like that, but he has that safety support so he doesn't fall. And the picture was taken, and then he painted the portrait from it. So the fact that he was that involved with it, Queen of Cups, this therapist. This is really based on one of his therapists' virtue. Now, the Tower card for this deck was originally the Twin Towers in New York, because it was 2012. Was it 2012 when this deck came out? So it was like the year after, so it was all very real and raw. But then as time went on, you know, that at that time, that incident was still extremely raw, and it still is for me. Even though I lived in South Carolina at the time, the Catholic parish I went to at the time, there were several families that had members of their families, or through marriage, spouses of close family members, that had died that day. So the scope of how far that event reached people all across the country and the world was really astounding. So eventually, as time passed, and maybe there was some pushback, I'm not sure, I don't know the whole story. But what I read from this website is that it felt to be more distant, and it didn't relate anymore as strongly. And he wanted to keep the deck current, so he created the new Tower card with the Trump Tower, which I think is very appropriate, as that symbol of crashing down and falling apart. So that's deck number 4. Number 5 is Curious Travels. I believe Simon from the Hermit's Cave chose this one as well. And I know Marilyn from Marilyn's Take did. And I'm not trying to be one of the cool kids, although I would love to be one of the cool kids. It just, and if I'm not going to do a walkthrough or talk tons about it, but if you watched Simon's walkthrough and anyone else's you walk through, they talk about just the sheer quality of this deck. The book, the packaging, the ribbon. Sometimes it's just glued and it falls out. This one is actually inserted in there. There's no gaps here for cards to get lost under. There's just everything about this production and packaging. The gold stamping even on the sides here. It's just absolutely beautiful. So, well done to that team. And then this one, to me, now this one has more of a RWS feel to it than the last one I just showed you, than the Urban Tarot. But it's still a little bit out of the ordinary as far as the scenes we're given. Look at the lovers. Absolutely beautiful. And I don't know if I have... The gold stamping on this just really adds... It's enough, but it's not too much. And I almost think that not having it gilded on the side helps this actually look better, because I think that would be, as they say, gilding the lily. If you gild the pictures and then gild the sides and then gild the, Now there are some decks that do that and do it well, but because of the I don't want to say simplicity, because this is true talent and work to get these color blendings and to get the line work with this painting. There's no telling how many hours of work went into creating these images. But with that being said, they are not overdone and packed with tons of other layers of details. So it is simple. It does have a simplicity feel to it, almost a childlike quality. But look at that, the Four of Wands, absolutely beautiful. The colors. But when you have that kind of simplicity in a picture, it has to be done meticulously, or else it will not look right. And I've said this before, it's like cooking food. You can make a 3-ingredient dish and it will be delicious. But the only way it'll be delicious is if you balance those ingredients perfectly and it is not overpowering one over the other. So the simpler something is to make or create, to me, the more skill I think it actually may take. That may not be completely stated correctly, but I think you understand the gist of it. There's some very complicated paintings in the museum, I know, that are absolutely gorgeous and were painted by masters, and they're not simple, and nothing about them are simple. But when you do something very simple, it has got to be right. There's no hiding a little something in a corner somewhere or behind something else. So this is the Curious Travels Tarot deck. The cardstock is linen. It's absolutely wonderful to hold. It is slippery. Some people just don't like that. I find this one, I don't know, I just love it. Some linens I don't like. Maybe it's the type of linen. And then I found out later, so maybe it is the type of linen. I found out later there's the linen imprint. So they'll print a card, and then it's almost like a stamp, if I understand correctly, that they stamp the cards with that give it that linen texture. And then others are truly printed on linen cardstock. So, and then some may even have both. So there are several different ways that they get a linen to call it linen, and then just going from there. So my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my 6th deck, making good time here, is the Pooh, Wisdom of Pooh. And I can't say anything else other than it reminds me so much of my sister and me. When we were kids, we would always watch all these specials together. She was 15 months older than me, and we were really like twins. And she died of cancer when she would have been 50, I think. It's horrible. I can't remember people's ages like I used to. But this just reminds me so much of the happy times we had, and my childhood was not happy. But when something like this came on, these were our moments that we felt like we were living in another part of the universe or another dimension, or we escaped in cartoons. Our favorite movie was The Secret of NIMH, and we watched it endlessly. I'm talking about years on. Like when we first saw it, we rewatched it probably 3 times in 1 week. And then we kept rewatching it. And then when we were bored, do you want to watch The Secret of NIMH? And we'd go to it. And for years we did that. Even when we were getting into adulthood, watching The Secret of NIMH together from time to time. Or when I'd watch it, and by the time I'd moved cross country, I came to Phoenix, and they were still in the Carolinas. I'd watch it and give her a call. So, you know, but just it really brings me to a good place to see this deck and look at it and reminisce and feel that warmth and that love. And it's just wonderful. The cardstock, absolutely gorgeous. It almost feels, it's a matte finish, but it almost feels like a art cardstock feel to it, but it's not, I don't think. It's linen again, but it's completely different feel than Curious Travels. And this gilding is absolutely beautiful in this deck. And I shuffle it. I hand over hand shuffle like this. It shuffles beautifully. But then you'll notice that I've given this deck some use. And the gilding is, I don't know what the difference is in gildings, but this one is holding up really, really well. So it can be done. They can make a gilded deck that's done correctly, I guess, and it stays together. The gilding, that is. And the box is beautiful. I love the new, they're not new, but the magnetic closure boxes. That little, so yeah, beautiful. Rose petal finish on the outside, some gold stamping. So that was 6. Number 7, I'm gonna save this one for last. So we're gonna make this one number 7, is the Pagan Otherworlds. Okay, Pagan Otherworlds. This deck, once again, I saw, this one I saw when I first got into tarot, not too long after I bought my my first deck, and I'd started watching YouTube videos to learn how to read tarot better. This card is absolutely beautiful. The Seeker. Now, if you go look for this image online, you'll find it in its original form, and then you'll find some color versions of it. This, I just absolutely adore. This image, period, whether it's on this card or on a print or in a frame, there's just something very interesting and contemplative about this image. It makes me think a lot. Then it has the Faces of the Moon cards, which I thought was a very cool idea. Are these in order? Oh, nope, not quite. I thought I didn't think I'd put these in order. But I forgot what the medium was with this. Was it oils? I'm thinking it was oils, but it might be watercolor. I can't tell a lot of times by looking at the images. I read and I remember, but the fine details on this are just absolutely beautiful. I love the muted tones. I love that it has this very earthy feel to it. This is linen cardstock. This feels a lot like the Curious Travelers Tarot. Oops, I love the way the pips are drawn. They're not so here we have the 4 of Pentacles. You still have the chest here. You have this idea that there's might be money in the chest or someone's trying to save it. So even though it is 5, you have the snow, barren landscape. Even though it's, I guess, technically a pip deck, there's enough in here to harken back to the RWS that I read this like an RWS. I do not read it as a Marseille. One, the pips are in the wrong positions. Marseille has a very definitive pattern the pips are in. And then the nod to the RWS in the setting of the pip cards, the scenery, the objects that are there, directly relate to the RWS version of the tarot. So see the ship, I mean the boat, not ship, the boat with the 6 swords there on the side. Direct link to the RWS. So even if you don't read pip decks, so to speak, it's the RWS. But I just love the images, and I kind of like having this deck without the people in every picture and just the background, because I think that lends a different feel to it. As those of us who do read daily, you know that there are, and if anyone's new here, like new to tarot, as you get into it, you'll notice that different decks, even though it might be the same system, have different feels to them. And I did not know that when I was first starting out. So if you're new to tarot and that's something you didn't know, then just, it's not, you won't have to force it. It'll just sort of puff up. The next one is if I can get it open. How did I tie this thing? Oh, there we go. I just wrapped it. I didn't tie it. That's my problem. I was trying to untie it, and there's no tie. The Tarocchi Italiani Metronua. Okay. This deck is the image of beauty, the definition of beauty. It's tired. I'm tired. It's probably after 10 o'clock now. I do read with this, and I shuffle it, and I treat it like I don't treat it like all my other decks. I would never just leave it laying on the table beside my chair in the family room, but when I do use this one, it always goes back in the pouch, in the bag, on the shelf. But I do use it, and it's just absolutely the colors. Now this is art cardstock. I don't know what weight. I didn't look it up just now. I think I had looked it up. Almost feels like 400. It's a very thick deck, but there are a few extra cards in here. I think there are 2 moon cards, and then this was one that she did on Kickstarter, and then it just sort of blew up. I mean, the more people looked at it, the more people signed up for it. And at the time, I did not have the wherewithal to get it. And then when I did have the wherewithal to get it, the Kickstarter was over, and she was packing decks. And of course, that was all during COVID, and things were crazy. And I can only I did a couple of correspondences with her, and she was very gracious in responding. And she was very honest about the struggles she was having, trying to package everything and get everything out and respond to messages. And anytime she responded back, there was always some sort of an apology in there for something, and I would just try not to respond to her too much, but I would just tell her, it's like, you don't have to apologize to me. One, I understand having a family business or your own business or a single person business. I understand that. 2 is she had some a person close to her had passed away during that time as well. She was dealing with that at the same time. So she has, her name just Valentina. Just based on what she was able to do, based on what was going on around her, personal life, the tariff thing, maybe was that during tariffs or just COVID? The whole COVID thing, the having to do the boxing, all that by herself, getting friends and neighbors to help when they could. I really think Valentina must have a very strong constitution and just be a wonderfully strong person. But she's very gracious at the same time. I could just tell in the tone in her messages. Very kind individual. So we chatted a little bit, and then finally got down to it. She emailed me back when she'd gotten all the orders out, and she said, "We do have it." And so that was when I purchased one, after all the hubbub was over and done. I was very glad to get it. And then, of course, after they're all out there and people are doing flip-throughs and all that, they want more. More people want them. And so she's doing a second edition. And those are available now. You have to go to her Instagram. She doesn't have a website. She's selling through Instagram. So you just have to contact her that way. And she's doing a standard deck like this. The original, let's copy the original. And then she has a smaller deck. It's still larger than regular tarot, but I want to think it's about, maybe it's like that. Difference in size. I saw a picture of it on the website, and she had both boxes side by side, and one was just a little bit shorter than the other, maybe by 1.5 inches or so. But all the information is there on Instagram. So yeah, the one with the deck, the new copy of this deck and the smaller version, is that she's added even a couple of more extra cards. So I do want to get a copy of it at some point. I have a feeling it's not going to run out, or if it does, she'll do it again, just because it did so well. So that is the Tarocchi Italiani dipinti a mano. Let me try this again. Tarocchi Italiano dipinta a mano della Valentina De Luca. All together now 100 times fast. Absolutely beautiful. And so that's the deck that actually got me really involved, interested in Marseille, because that's like, I want that deck, and if I'm going to have it, I have to be able to read it. This deck was one I had been wanting a long time, and I never really thought I would get it, like the Aculi Occultati. But this is, and I heard something today on Marilyn's tarot tag. She was doing this same tag, and she had the Raziel tarot. I say Raziel, but I'm going to believe her when she says that she did some research and looked it up, and she said it's Raziel. And I don't doubt that, because Marilyn is awesome. And she doesn't just say things to say them. She usually has something to back it up with. So I do like that, the Raziel tarot. Anyway, this deck I received from Simon at the Hermit's Cave when we did a deck swap. So, but this of course, this was written by Rachel Pollack, based on her Jewish mysticism and lore from her family heritage background, and things she learned growing up and things she investigated later, legends she'd heard, and a legend she created, which I think is brilliant. You'll notice they're very biblically referenced. I did a walkthrough of this one and talked a little bit more about the imagery in depth and how the book reads, and the sort of the essence of it. I'm going to do another one eventually when I have time to actually sit and study with it a lot. But that's the Raziel Tarot. Absolutely beautiful. Another one with gold gilding. But this one's out of print. And there were only about 1,200, I think. There's not an exact number, but based on the year and the time that Rachel Pollack and Robert M. Place were doing these, he usually did what they call a small run, around 1,000 decks. So it's somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000, and then that's it. And I don't think he'll ever run this one again since she's deceased. Maybe not. Maybe he will, because I think it'd be a wonderful tribute to her, because it's a beautiful deck. And then, of course, Robert M. Place. I love his artwork. I love what he's doing with tarot, and his writing is excellent as well. He has several books out on the history of tarot, metaphysics, esotericism, Neoplatonism. He's just a jack of all trades. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the last one. It's not rare. It's not super valuable. You can still buy it in the store, but it was my first tarot deck, and that is Ethereal Visions. And oddly enough, it's not one I grab every day or even frequently anymore, but it's one I always have where I can grab it. When I was first looking for a tarot deck, I didn't know a lot about the history and all that. The first deck that I had a reading from was the standard US Games Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But the person who would read for me, you had to know certain things and do certain things, and your first deck had to be gifted to you, all the little things that we would call gatekeeping now. So there was never any teaching. There was always just a would you like to draw a card? You can draw a card, one card, and then they went over that, like what it meant for me that day or something. And so I didn't think much of it. I enjoyed it, but what I saw of it, I thought it was cool, but I had no idea how it worked. And then all those, I love this Three of Wands. I mean, he just looks like he's getting ready to own the world. So anyway, when I first came back to tarot, or I discovered it or rediscovered it, kind of both, because I never really got into it to begin with. I was trying to decide which deck to buy, and I started just looking online, started looking at everything, and then these images, I saw these, and I was like, these are just absolutely beautiful. I loved the images. I love the gold gilding. And they just really spoke to me. And this deck, and nobody throw anything at the screen, but I would compare this to the same feeling as a Robert M. Place deck, because I love that artwork. It's not the same style, I know that. It's not the same genre, but it just has that feeling to me, and I don't know how else to say it. But this deck really helped me get through some tough times. So I needed a spiritual practice or something to support me through that time, and I turned to tarot. And this is the deck that helped me get through that, which I'm very glad I found it, because at the time my son was also going through our son, my wife and I, were going through some mental health challenges, and it was just really tough. It was one of those periods of time where 2 to 3 years, you wondered if the sun was ever going to come out again, and then it did. And I'm very fortunate to have the family I have, to have the life I have, to have the job I have, to have this way to communicate with you all. I know there aren't many of us in this little group that I have, but for those of you who are watching, I appreciate you. I appreciate your comments. If you have something you'd like to say or share, just do so in the comments. I love to read those and respond to those. That makes me actually feel more connected. Like I'm not just talking to the airwaves, but if you feel like letting something, we say hey all the time on Facebook and online and the Hermit's Cave chats and all that. So it's not that. It's just if you do think of something that connects to what I've mentioned tonight, then just throw it in there. Never know who it might benefit. Well, those are my 10 decks I cannot live without. And then There is one more. Oh, I wanted to do an honorable mention. Sorry, but I didn't want this to go by. So, honorable mention, and I really went back and forth with this, but as I mentioned, the Urban Tarot is a Thoth-based deck. And since I connected with it so well, I decided to take this one to my 6-month trip to Europe. But honorable mention is this is the tea box, of course. Some of you know that, some of you don't. I had to look it up. But it fits my Thoth deck perfectly. This is an older deck. It's the one before they changed the plates, so the colors are really rich. It was a demo copy a shop owner had, and I was looking for a Thoth deck, and they didn't have one. They said, "Well, we got the shop copy, but it's used and it's opened and it's been handled." And I saw it and the colors, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's beautiful." I said, "How much would you want for it?" It was half price, so I think it was less than $15 because whatever the original price was. Absolutely beautiful. Honorable mention. But my Thoth deck I would take with me is the Urban Tarot. So that's it. I was going to say, I do have one more deck coming this week that I will do a video on and discuss it and tell you which one of these 10 decks it would definitely bump out, because it will be in my 10 decks I can't live without when it gets here. So look forward to that. Have a great night, and I will see you next time. Bye.